Question for you. In 2019, a family operated company engaged us to hire a CFO for their organization. Guessed the owner's CEO's projected starting salary for that role. $80,000. Consider that. $80,000 in 2019 is the starting salary for a new hire out of college. Yet here's a large family operated company thinking they're going to get a seasoned executive for that same salary. How can this happen? The reason why reveals an endemic problem in family operated companies where families are operating with antiquated and unsophisticated compensation practices that leave them uncompetitive in the talent marketplace. So back to that family company. We helped them find a great CFO at going market rates in 2019. If you're interested in understanding how we worked with this family to adjust their compensation practices, shoot me a message and we can talk about it. And here we're going to unpack the two common reasons why that happens. Reason number one is private discretionary compensation practices where the family keeps decisions about compensation in a private dialogue between shareholders. This oftentimes is seen in areas regarding bonus compensation where the base will be flat and you will hire people for whatever that base salary might be agreed to, but the variable compensation is going to be private and it will be divvied up based off of a discretionary idea between the shareholders. This model is antiquated and it's consistent with compensation practices in the 70s and 80s and has been carried forward through today. And the central reason discretionary practices are carried forward through today is also the second reason why antiquated compensation practices hold families back. And it's commonly considered to be a good thing in the family business community. It's what we call long-termerism. Long-termerism is when you have executives who've been with your business for 10, 20, 30, sometimes even 40 years. You've hired them back in the 80s on a base salary and a discretionary compensation practice. They accepted those terms as conditions of employment decades ago. They've earned your trust and they've stayed with you and your business through up and down. And now you don't think about compensation because they know they're cared for and you know your business is cared for. This long-termerism is generally a good thing. You get your team working together in the same direction and you've got a system of trust within your operating company. This becomes a problem, however, when you breed complacency in the workplace. One of the reasons this will manifest is when you all of a sudden have individuals retiring and they are going to exit the company and you need to bring someone new in. This is why recruiters like folks at Stranberg are facing this issue all the time. Family companies have individuals retiring after 20, 30 years in the business. And when we go out and do a comp study, data is data. You pull that data in and you find out that that exiting executive was far below the market rate. And now the family is going to have an issue where they're going to have to either adjust their compensation practices or hire someone at a lower rate. And when you do that, you're always going to compromise somewhere. So take a look at your organization. Do you have executives that have been around for 10, 20, or 30 years? When was the last time you checked on their compensation and benchmarked it against what's going on in the rest of the economy? Are you ready for executive transitions in your business? And do you have long-term issues? And are you aware of how your compensation compares against your competitors? If you're concerned about your compensation practices and whether or not you'll be competitive when going to the talent market, reach out to us at Stranberg and we can help you ensure that you've got a package that's competitive so you can attract the best talent to your family company. There are many ways that these problems can manifest, but here are the three primary ones that we see with our clients. One is when you have a family member in your business that's exiting the company and you need to bring in new people. The standard best practice is to do a market compensation study to determine what appropriate compensation is for the new hire coming in. If that data comes from the market and demonstrates that the incumbent family employee's compensation was well below market, which happens often, what you have is a family member who will likely feel that they have been undervalued and underpaid by their own family. And that conversation is not fun to bring home to the family table in any business anywhere. Number two is challenges in recruitment. Many families understand that their compensation is below market in some capacity or another, and they want to keep it there. They're willing to accept those terms, and so they'll go out and they still want to bring A players into their business. A players are the top of the market, and they have top of market expectations. This creates a circumstance where either A, the family can go reach that A player and stretch in their compensation policies to bring that person on board, or B, they have to compromise on their expectations and bring someone in that is less than qualified by one way or another. Here's a general rule for you. If you go below compensation standards, you are going to compromise somewhere. In most cases, it's incompetency. Number three, and perhaps the most critical pain point that families will feel, is what we call a cash flow crunch. Let's say in a recruitment example, the family chooses to stretch beyond their standard compensation practices and hire someone more expensive than they were expecting to hire. What happens is a cascading problem when the rest of the executives in that business discover that that new hire is making $50,000 more than them. Now the family shareholders have a big problem. Once that water cooler effect goes around, those other executives are going to do one of two things. They're going to renegotiate their compensation with you, squeezing your cash flow, or they're going to quit and you're going to need to go out and hire new people to replace them, thereby squeezing your cash flow. In either way, it's painful. And it happens on a regular basis. And if you have a lot of executives in your business today that are near the point of retirement, you're going to find issues like this manifest in your family company. If you have issues like this, or you're worried issues like this might occur in your family company, reach out to us at Stranberg and we can help you navigate these issues. Unfortunately, however, there's no magic wand that you can wave to address decades of poor compensation practices. But there are some tips and tricks here that we can unpack. And the first one is start benchmarking compensation and do it regularly. Annually is a good process here. If you have a board of directors, you should have a compensation committee that will institute this as a regular policy. But it's important. By benchmarking compensation, you know what's going on in the marketplace. You know what your own people are hearing about around the water cooler when they're going out with their friends talking about their pay, assuming they do so. Number two, remove discretionary compensation practices. They are a burden on you and your workforce. Instead, we strongly suggest you pivot to number three, which is performance-based variable compensation. We want you to set goals for your executives, establish milestones, and pay variable comp upon those executives reaching those milestones. If they don't reach those milestones, they don't achieve pay. Very straightforward way to think about this is sales. If sales is based on commission, those sales come in, those employees get paid. No sales, no pay. It becomes a clear objective set for your employees about how they earn their money, and it gives you a capacity to understand your budgeting on what's going through with your employees. And the final point here is that you're going to need to be willing to compromise. If you have poor compensation practices in your business today, you are going to run into issues at a certain point, either with your family or with your staff or with candidates you're trying to recruit. It's best for you as the owner of a company, or perhaps the advisor to a family company, is to understand the issues and understand your own ability to flex to accommodate the people in your system, or perhaps the people you're trying to bring into your system. Understand what you can do, understand your limits, and then work with the people around you to establish a strategy that allows you to write your compensation practices in a method that keeps the great people in your company. If you'd like to learn more about compensation practices, or you have questions, or perhaps like to begin addressing compensation issues in your company, reach out to us at Stranberg and we can help you put together a plan that will address your compensation issues.